The next generation of gaming is nearly here, and today we got some screenshots of Lord of the Rings Gollum for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and I definitely want to talk about them. Some new information on LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga should have fans pretty excited for this game. And finally, a huge Nintendo leak leads to solving one of the biggest mysteries of all time for the company. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So obviously the next generation of gaming is nearly here. Both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are launching this holiday season in 2020. Now, of course, we have seen more from the Xbox Series X than the PlayStation 5, but to me, I'm still excited for both of these consoles. I think it's going to be very fun to see what first-party games are coming to these consoles, what are going to be the hardware pushers that are available on day one for it, and really just what games are going to be available for it on day one. Now, obviously, Microsoft has announced that they are doing a third-party presentation that will be taking place on May 7th. Now, during this presentation, they'll be showing various third-party games that are coming to the Xbox Series X, so we're going to get an absolutely in-depth look at what the Xbox Series X is really all about and what this next generation of gaming is going to do as far as games are concerned, because, well, really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Hardware is only hardware, but if a hardware doesn't have any games, then who cares about this hardware? Well, Daedalic Entertainment is a company that is working on next generation games, and today they decided to beat Microsoft essentially to the punch by showcasing screenshots for an upcoming game for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Now, this game will be releasing in 2021, and it is Lord of the Rings Gollum. Now, I will be perfectly honest with you guys, I've never watched the Lord of the Rings movie. I know that's probably sacrilege. I know there's going to be people complaining in the comment section, but I don't know. Like, I didn't really care about these movies, but I did play some of the games on the GameCube because the local co-op was actually really fun. I just didn't really know what the hell was going on in those games. Well, Lord of the Rings Gollum, like I said, is an exclusive game for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, meaning that there will be no current generation console edition of this game. And some new screenshots were shown from this game, and I don't know. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this. I think the game itself looks fine, and obviously a screenshot is only indicative of a screenshot. Once a game gets in motion, you can really learn a lot more about the game. When I first saw the Streets of Rage 4 screenshots, I was kind of like, eh. But once I saw the game in motion, I was like, oh, okay, this has potential, and we all know how that ended up being. So I think you can't really deduce too much from these screenshots. Obviously, the Gollum himself looks pretty cool, obviously very highly detailed as well, so I think that's a good positive thing, but some of these environments just look a bit drab to me. I do think some of these screenshots do look better than other screenshots, but really I want to see this game in motion because it looks like it's going to be a stealth game, and really I enjoy stealth games. I think the stealth genre is a bit underrated. You don't really see many stealth games anymore, so I'm all for more stealth games, and I think the fantasy environment will also help this game as well because you'll be able to do some very interesting things. But at the end of the day, I think these screenshots are at least interesting to look at and interesting to talk about. Now, the real question is, couldn't this be done on a current generation console? Couldn't this be done on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One? And, you know, I kind of think it could be. Like I said, we do have to see this game in motion before completely writing it off or anything like that. But I do think it doesn't really show a huge generational leap in terms of graphics. But of course, if the gameplay is good, then that might not even really matter. I will be interested to see if Microsoft actually shows this game during their third-party presentation on May 7th, though, because obviously this game is pretty far along if they're already showing screenshots for it and penciling it in for a 2021 release date. All I know is I don't really know anything about the Lord of the Rings series, but maybe Lord of the Rings fans will be a bit more excited for this than I am. So if you're looking forward to the Lord of the Rings Gollum game on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, be sure to let me know in the comments section down below, and let me know what you think of the screenshots of the game as well. Today is May the 4th, and everyone has to do the May the 4th be with you jokes because it is essentially a Star Wars day. And I actually might spend the day watching some Star Wars movies. I enjoy the Star Wars franchise. The newer films I didn't really get into quite as much. Maybe there just wasn't as much nostalgia for me. But the original trilogy, this prequel trilogy, you know, I kind of have a soft spot for the prequel trilogy. But obviously everyone is talking about Star Wars today, and that is including LEGO Star Wars video games. Now, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga Saga is the next Star Wars game that we are getting from the Star Wars franchise of video games. And there's been some great Star Wars games, and there's been some questionable Star Wars games. Masters of Terras Kasi, I actually started playing that game recently on my PlayStation 3 for the PlayStation 1, and I don't know why, because that game is just, who signed off on this? Like, the fighting mechanics are so bad. But anyways, Lego Skywalker Saga is obviously the next game in the franchise. But obviously Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is the next big game, and yes, it is a Lego game, but still, I think the Lego games are good if you're a fan of the source material. Well, today we got some information on Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, and there's going to be a lot of characters to play as. Almost 500 characters. In a recent interview that was done with Craig Derrick, who is the managing producer at Lucasfilms Games, he basically said there are going to be 500 characters in the game, with many of them playable. When choosing characters for a game this large, we looked at every film in the saga and tried to say yes as much as possible. That said, it often comes down to storytelling and specific role of the character in the quest and game progression. So I think this game, a lot of people are sort of sleeping on it because it is a Lego game, and some people feel that Lego games maybe aren't of the highest quality, but all the Lego games that I have played that have good source material, I have enjoyed. Lego Jurassic Park, I even like Lego Harry Potter, and I'm not even like a big Harry Potter fan or anything like that. Like, I've seen the movies, unlike the Lord of the Rings movies, but I did know what was going on, so maybe that made it a bit more enjoyable for me. But I think this game is going to be a very large game. Obviously, it encompasses all of the films from the Star Wars franchise, so this is going to be a massive game, and it looks like they're actually pulling out all the bells and whistles for this game when it releases sometime in 2020. Now, this game will be coming out on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch, so I'll probably end up checking out the Nintendo Switch version of the game just because I want to see how it plays in handheld mode. But I think this game is going to be very cool, and I think the inclusion of all these characters is going to be a very big deal as well for Star Wars fans. Enjoy your May the 4th festivities, and I guess watch some Star Wars films and eat some pizza. And finally, there's a massive leak going on right now, and no, it's not involving The Last of Us 2. This is actually involving Nintendo and some legacy systems, and really, there's one takeaway that I've taken from this whole situation so far from all the stuff that I've read, and it's absolutely fascinating because one of the biggest mysteries about Nintendo has finally been solved with a concrete answer. So, in case you have not heard, basically, a service called Broad On Server was hacked, and in this hack, a lot of stuff from the N64, GameCube, and the Wii was found. As it was a way to hold information and transfer information within Nintendo, it was a server that they had used to do things with that information. Now, some of the cool things on here were things like N64 tech demos that were shown during events like Space World, and maybe that were shown behind closed doors at Space World. And there's a whole bunch of different tech demos that are out there that showcase different N64 demos. And one of them I'm showing right now is probably the more interesting of all of them. Some sort of weird maze game that they were showcasing. But still, it's cool to get little glimpses of things like that because I think that's good for video game preservation when it comes to the history of things. There was also information on the Panasonic Q, which of course was a premium GameCube that launched in Japan that I own, and I absolutely love it. It has a DVD player on it, so I can watch my Back to the Future DVDs and whatnot, but I do enjoy the Panasonic Q. It is an absolutely fantastic system, and there's some interesting information along with that. But really, the more interesting information was stuff pertaining to the Nintendo Wii, because pretty much everything about the Nintendo Wii was leaked in this data breach. So basically, you have everything from source code to internal discussions that were done about the Wii, and I think that's just absolutely fascinating to me, because while I'm not big into source code and things like that, I have no meaning. It means absolutely nothing to me. Obviously, there are people out there that can do positive things with this source code as far as compiling things and doing things like emulation and whatnot with this source code information. But the most interesting thing, like I said, came from this was the discussion of the Nintendo Wii and the online system, because of course on the Nintendo Wii we had friend codes, and these were introduced during the Nintendo Wii, and ever since then Nintendo has always been using friend codes, and we've gotten some basic hunky-dory PR statements about why friend codes are a thing, but we never knew the actual reason as to why Nintendo went with friend codes until now, because basically there was a PowerPoint presentation that was done talking about Nintendo Wii and the online system and why they decided to go with friend codes. Now, I'm not going to show the slide or anything like that because I feel like Nintendo could be petty and try to take down this video, video, but I will read it to you in my soothing voice. So basically, this slide says the following. The friend code. To realize this friend function, 12-digit friend codes are used. At first, there were opinions that instead of 12-digit numbers, a freely chosen screen name would be better. Problems with using screen names include: there is a high probability of duplicate screen names. When this happens, multiple re-entries are required. This conflicts with the simple principle. It is possible to guess someone's screen name by trying different variations of their actual name. Conflicts with the comfortable principle. So essentially what Nintendo wanted to do with the Nintendo Wii's online service was make it very simplistic, and so that anyone could pretty much use it. But I don't feel like assigning random 12-digit numbers is more simplistic than somebody choosing their own name. Yes, if they choose their name and it's already taken, they would have to re-enter that. But that's pretty much the principle for anything. Sign up for a website, sign up for an email address, sign up for anything that requires an online login, and you have to create your own username. If it's already used in the database of whatever program you're using, obviously you're going to have to choose a different name. So I think that's just an absolutely bizarre reason. And then we have it's possible to guess someone's screen name by putting in random things. Like, okay, like what is you going to do something negative with that? Like, this really just shows Nintendo's principle when it comes to online gaming, especially during that time frame. Obviously the online stuff has maybe gotten better, but friend codes are still a thing. Now obviously with the Nintendo Switch you can add friends via a variety of different methods, but at the end of the day, the friend code is still in place, as opposed to just having simply a screen name that is encompassing for all of your Nintendo devices. So I think it's just a really interesting glimpse, and it really solves this huge mystery as to why friend codes were a thing. Nintendo thought that friend codes were simpler than just making a screen name and having that on your system, because of the fact that you would have to re-enter the screen name if somebody had already chosen it. And it's so funny to me. It's so funny for me to see. As far as the other stuffs in this leak are concerned, I think this is actually positive stuff, because these are all legacy systems. You know, it's all pertaining to the N64, the GameCube, the Wii, all systems that are decades old. So I think this is good for video game preservation and things like emulators in the future. So maybe we'll start to see some pretty cool stuff now that, of course, a lot of the source code for these systems has been completely leaked. So who knows? At the end of the day, it's obviously a very interesting thing. I'm sure Nintendo is a bit upset by this, but I don't think they can care really all that much. It's not pertaining to current generation consoles or future consoles. So all in all, I feel like it's sort of okay, but you probably shouldn't hack servers anyways. Alright, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of everything. Are you impressed by the Lord of the Rings screenshots? Am I sacrilegious for never watching it? Are you going to watch some Star Wars movies today? And what do you think about the Skywalker Saga coming to the PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One? And finally, what do you think about this Nintendo reasoning for friend codes? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.